Happy Easter. It's already like probably 3:30 at this point, but it's enough time to get out and scout. So where I'm planning on heading is to a spot that I scouted my way through during my pre-rut vacation, like mid-October. And there was a scrape line just absolutely opened up, and that line and all the sign that I found that I was following kind of wrapped around this area that I've actually never been into. I've always hunted the outside of it, and I've had buddies tell me they've seen big deer come out of there. The sign that looked like it was coming in and out of there was pretty decent too. So that's my plan. I'm just gonna beeline there because everything I'm walking through now, everybody else kind of accesses the same way. So we're not even 5 minutes into this thing. The water is way deeper than I thought it was gonna be. I knew it was gonna be deep. This is gonna fill my boots without a question. Oh my God, it's gonna be cold. Little man was asking right before I left if he could come, and I was like, ah man, buddy, we don't have muck boots for you. You grew out of your muck boots. And it was already pretty late, so I didn't have time to go run to the store and get him some. It wouldn't have mattered. That boy would have had to jump on my back. I got a feeling this is gonna be a wet scout. Holy moly. Alright, so coming up on the spot that I wanted to get in and scout. My goal is to essentially wrap around this entire thing and just follow the transition. But the spot that I'm standing in right now, I actually throw a hunt at least once or twice a year. And I've watched bucks cross this marsh in front of me and then follow this transition and then follow the edge on the way in. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow that, see where that buck went, and how he got into this and where it takes me. Yeah, this is the trail that goes right by the tree I sit in. Straight down into the thicket that way. There's a historic right here. There's a historic on the other side. I thought, never mind. Oh yeah, right here on the other tree. But just in general, it shows that bucks will come in and out of here, and that's what I've seen bucks do, is cross that marsh and then come over here and hop this fence. And this is the trail. Oh, watch that buck go down. And he just worked the edge of this thing. For all I know, he tucked into here, or he just kept on going towards the river. But I want to get inside of here. See where it's thick right here, and then it opens up on the other side. That's where I came walking through. And I turn this corner, and it just opens up completely in here, where it's really wet. Everything's dead. I followed a trail that came in right there. You see where this deadfall is? You can tell they're bedding in there, but there's no bucks on. Hopped out, went into here. Look at this flat spot right there. Kept on following this trail in. There's a really, really old historic right here. Caught my attention, so I kept following it. I'm not seeing any rubs anywhere in here, but you can see that they can bed anywhere. But it looks like there's going to be beds right up here. It's a bed right here. There's probably deer hair in here, I can see. Let's find this. There's deer hair right here. Is there laying right here? Oh yeah, there's deer hair everywhere. I'm not seeing any rubs. There's definitely a trail to another flat spot right there. This came from right there. There's no way a buck's gonna be in here. Nothing mature anyway. I'm crawling on my hands and knees to get around in here, but there's flat spots everywhere. There's a trail that goes right through here. You can see more flat spots up there. There's like a cave up here that's got a flat spot right there. but I just can't see a buck doing it. It's good to know that all the bedding in this general area looks like it's all doe, so you can expect a buck to work its way through here. Came walking out of there, walked till I got to that little sapling out there. All the ends were nipped off, and I seen a trail that came in on here, came in through here. This is more open. This is going to be easier for a buck to get its antlers through. There's a rub right there, right through that. He's bedding right on the back side of this deadfall, and that's rubbed right there, early season. There's another bed back there too. He's bedding here and he's bedding there. That's actually all snapped over from him. Alright, walked through on that trail there. That rub is right here. I was just peeking through it right there. There's a deadfall behind this bigger one. There really isn't a good trail that I can see that leads back there right now that I can see. It's flat right there. It's flat right there. That's a good bedding spot. You can watch out into that opening. Watch anything coming in and out of here. Look how open these sections are. There's a nice trail that leads that way. There's an old historic over here. Big old buck turn. Okay. See something bedded right here. Look at this, all snapped and half old. Alright. Just got through that mess. There is a perfect bed right here. Nice bed right there. There's another one back there. You can tell there's one right here. Opening. You can tell something's laying down right here. Right there. It's like a kidney shape right there. Definitely something going to be laying in here. No rubs or anything though. Watch for sign. Nothing fresh anyway out of that. So I got out of there. Put this trail in and see what's in here. Deer hair leading right into this. Right there. Nice and open to walk through, but a thick cover. There's got to be something in here for me. There's actually quite a bit of deer hair in here. You can just see they can lay down anywhere in here. But did anybody leave any big old buck sign? Some deer there. Decent little track. I'm definitely walking through this way. I'm just gonna mill around, see what I find. All that deer hair. They're definitely bedding down in here. No rubs or anything though. This is starting to look like a spot that I'm gonna have to find the best area to set up on a buck that's trying to either wind check everything in here or cross all the trails he can, working his way through here trying to find a doe. Because right on the other side of the thicket that I'm looking at is actually where I accessed the day that I found all this sign. And man, this is just like a prime bedding area. But there's just no buck sign. Still just checking all the nooks and crannies of this bedding area. There is just deer hair everywhere. Right on the back side of that, you can see there's a trail that follows that back to a little cave back there. Oh, here's a good turn. It could be that they're just not rubbing anything back here. Oh my God, yeah, see here's a bed. Look at all this hair. Looks like there's a trail that leads back there. Definitely bedding back there, but I'm not seeing any rubs. Look at this cave. Holy moly, there's a bunch of deer hair back here too. Real long deer hair. I could bank on this being a buck bedding. Trying to catch him coming out of this. Big old buck turds. Big old long hairs. Alright, so I was just on the back side of all this thick. Hopped out to this kind of open spot and worked my way through all this deadfall. And now I'm at like the pinch of that opening that I originally started in and just worked through this thicket. All the big buck sign that I seen when I scouted my way in for a sit was actually like that direction, only a couple, maybe 100 yards from us, maybe less. Rather than go out to that sign that I already know is there, I already walked through that thicket. I'm just gonna walk right to this point that I'm in now. It looks kind of interesting just in this general little spot, so I'm gonna mill around in here, see if I can't find any buck sign. Alright, just hopped over that log, came through here. You can see there's a trail that leads out to that opening that hits the transition that leads to that sign that I'm talking about out here. Following this main trail, there's a trail that veers off right here to this opening that's all flat right there. Don't see any buck sign, but we'll go check it out. See, I just wrapped through here. That's that opening I was pointing at. No buck sign. Definitely bedding here. Leads me back out into this opening that you can tell there's a trail that leads right out to that where I came in at. Walked back in. So there's a bed right here. Actually, deer turds right there inside of it. It's right off this main trail. Let's walk around. There's a trail that comes in here. Looks like nothing. Alright, I'm just going to continue to work around this. Alright, so I just popped out that way, hit the transition, turn this corner. This actually leads right to where I was standing, and I said, oh, there's a trail that leads into right here. And here we go. Yeah. That's all throughout the season. Until early season because of the dots on it. And that's it. Good deer. Meat of that is right at my hip. Nice. Alright, so we got our rub. There's that big thicket that I just scouted through in kind of a U shape. Now, I didn't see any significant buck sign like this in any of that. So I don't think that this is marking him going in on this trail, because not only that, but it's kind of a thicker wall right there. He's got to walk through a lot. I think that this is just him following this trail that goes between where this thicket pinches down, and then it picks up on another one, and then that gets big and it wraps around this way. If I'm a buck and I want to smell any potential does that are bedding in this kind of seems like the obvious route to go through. And then if you're a buck that's just bedding somewhere in this in general, this is your easiest route to get through without the hassle of getting your antlers tangled in anything. And like I said, that's early season, mid-season, during the rut. That's what that looks like. I'm just going to keep following this and see what we find. That rub is on the back side of these two thicker trees right here. I just followed the transition. Ended up popping onto a trail in here. Definitely bedding right here. There's no buck sign. Nothing leading in and out this way. I'm gonna keep pushing through here. Let's walk through that. There's nothing out here. I don't see anything this way. There's a faint trail that goes in through here. See, there's a trail here. Oh, there's a really old historic one here. It's in line with where that other rub is. It runs this way. This is the tightest part of like the pinch where it opens up, so I can see him crossing right here. Just came walking down the trail from where that historic was, and met up with this trail that leads to where all the sign was that I found. And then that trail tucks into this thicket here. This could be a good spot for a camera depending on how thick it gets where these trails meet up. I'm hoping I can find a better spot than that though, where there's more than just two trails that intersect. I just walked off of that trail. It is beat flat right there. It is beat down in here. The trail that comes in through here. Not really seeing a good opening for a buck to get into here though. Well, I guess he can slink through right there. It's definitely a bed right here. There's one back there. Alright, I backed out of that because if there is a buck that's bedding back in this thicket, it's not through that. I gotta find out where they're walking in at. Okay. You would imagine there's gonna be buck sign in this. This is perfect cover. I'm just gonna mill around in here. Figure out where all these trails gonna meet up at. Well, I've been walking essentially a straight line down the inside transition of this thicket that I'm in. Haven't found any buck rubs or anything, but there are white oak acorns just littered in here. So at some point in the season, there is definitely a buck that comes in here to feed on these because there are a ton of them. But I'm just gonna take this straight line all the way down and then hook towards the opposite transition. And it'll probably take me through the meat of that. But yeah, I have not seen any buck sign. There's a small little rub on this guy. Right at pretty much the end of this where it opens up into the field. It's a smaller rub. It's ripped off on the top. There's a scrape right here. This is all nipped off up here. This is nipped off. That's nipped off. All of this is nipped off. So this could be where they come in and out at. Good trail that comes in here. Okay. It meets up with that thicket that I just walked down. There's that rock at. There's a historic on this. It's historic. It actually got touched up last season as well. Here's this rub, early season. Might not even be from last season, but it was early. Connects it to that little thicket right here. This looks like a little kind of island right there, surrounded by water. So we'll go up there, I'll check this, and then before I turn back around and head on the opposite transition of this, there's another like small kind of island right here that I'm going to check out. Alright, didn't find much in there. I'm walking the outside edge of it now. There's really only one trail that cuts into there. Good spot for a camera. Alright, just came walking up there. There was really no sign anywhere in there. Walked through that, nothing. Brings me out to this point where it's real wet. There's an old historic right here. And look at that, that is a perfect bed. I can see something bed in here for sure. I'll look back around and see what we can find. Nothing. Good trails, but not much for sign. Good trail cutting through here. Looks like a historic up here, maybe? Historic. Right on this trail. It heads out to where I just was. Definitely a scrape right here. This connects to where I was over here. I followed that transition out there all the way down and then wrapped around this way. Another scrape here, just right down from that one. Nipping that off, nip that off, nip this off. And here's a good trail that connects this to the thicket over there. But I would imagine they turn and head towards that rub rather than going through that opening. Just walked through that water opening that I crossed to hit this. I followed it straight down this time. There's an early season rub right here. That's gonna be in through, hitting that. Close this in. So I followed that trail in. I hopped out here, but it's actually on the inside of that transition. Not seeing much. Kind of opens up back here. Let's get back here. So there's a trail that I just followed in. Cuts that way. It cuts in this way. Right here. this. Here's another scrape. Ooh, this is a good one. This one is right in the middle of this huge thicket. They would feel so comfortable hitting this daytime. That's good. I'm gonna mark that. So that scrape is straight in front of us. I just followed the trail back here. There's a couple historics right on the edge. Tell you what, I'm not seeing any buck sign in a spot where I would expect it to be too. Just taking my time walking through this. It's kind of the trail that I followed into here. So you got a historic right here. Looks like a bed right here. Right on this high spot. Nothing good. Alright, well, I started, you can see where it's like kind of open out there. I started that way, walked my way through this, kind of zigzagged my way through this just to see if I could see any buck sign. Didn't find anything, didn't really cover all of it, but at that point I've seen enough. So I'm gonna make my way through this now and work my way to where I seen all them scrapes. Speaking of, absolutely. Old historic on this trail. See the tracks. Walked through where you see the grass is a little bit greener. Came back this way, started walking up. I haven't seen anything buck-wise, but this is a good track. It's almost 4 fingers wide. Following this trail up. Alright. So follow that trail in. This is a pretty beaten trail right here. Goes out into the opening out there. This is a tall road. That's good. Doesn't look like it was last season, but this is the trail one will go down. So I just walked that edge. I know where I'm at now because there's a bush on the outside of this that I said I would sit in to catch something walking the outside edge of this. But now that I'm walking in here, I don't think they have to walk the outside edge. So I came walking this way, but I peeked back into here and there is a good historic road in here. Look at this thing. Oh yeah, there's a trail that leads right here, right to it. Trail behind it, trail right here. Usually they all meet up right here. That's probably why that's there. Okay. Can't really hunt this, it is thick. Alright, I've just been walking back and forth in here. I'm not seeing any rubs. There's that historic, there's a couple of historics in here, but there are big buck turds everywhere, which makes me feel like they're in here. I'm gonna pop out to the outside edge and walk to where all those scrapes were. Ah, man, it was like mid-October when I was there, so let's see what they look like. This is that trail that leads right to that historic and to where all those trails kind of met up right there. Look at this trail on this transition. And up here is where the scrapes were. All the historic leading in there. I gotta spend some time in this spot just breaking down where the best opportunity is gonna be. There's that trail. This was the first one. You can tell they were nipping this all off. There was more as we went down the line. There was more as I went down the line. Okay. And historics. Yeah. Those are good. Here's one of the scrapes. Over here. All the sign is right on this trail that walks around the edge. It's going to be impossible to hunt them while they're inside of there. But if you can get one being dumb and poking his nose out here, walking this transition, you can definitely get one. I want to walk up and down this a couple of times and just figure out what my best opportunity is going to be. I'm still just following that trail. That's a good one. They worked this pretty hard. They snapped a lot of it off. Really small scrape, but there was another one there. And then this just leads me right into where I just was. This is that opening that I walked through. That rub is out here. That like bigger rub that we first stopped and made a big deal out of. And then we walked down this way. That's got to be what this trail is, man, is they are just smelling everything that's either crossing into here or if they got the right wind for it. So it looks like this trail right about there veers off this way and comes through this way. So that's where I was just standing. That trail meets up to right there. This trail meets to right here. And then there's a trail that goes this way, a trail that goes this way. There's a trail that goes the way I was just standing at. This would be the spot for a camera if you got a good tree for it that's not going to blow around in the wind. I'm going to mark this spot. I'm going to work my way up a little bit farther, see if maybe there's more trails that connect up here. But this is probably where I'm going to run my camera at. I'm at another spot where this trail meets up here, goes this way where it meets up that spot where I just was standing at. A lot of activity right here. Not a lot of sign for as much activity seems to be walking through here. Oh my God, there's a coyote right there. I never bring my pistol. He just stood there. God dang it. That predator camo had him all shook and confused. Man, he stood there for like a good 5 seconds before I even got the camera turned around. I had to double take at him like, there's no way. He was just staring at me. All right, I'm gonna see where this trail goes to. Right before that happened, look at this, historic. This is the trail I just came walking through. It's a historic right here. There's a scrape right here that leads to all the other scrapes. Well, this is nipped off. All these trails meet up right here. I don't even think this is a camera spot. This is a stand spot. I'm gonna figure out the best tree for this. Still run a camera here. Might even run a cell if I'm gonna have to stand here. All right, well, I'm gonna run out of daylight here, and I got a sick kid at home, so I gotta wrap this up pretty soon. I'm gonna find the tree that kind of covers this area. I'm gonna look at the map. That's what I'm doing right now anyway. I'm trying to consider what my best access is without cutting off a bunch of these trails. I want to access this without messing up that main trail that I followed in on the way here that all the scrapes were on, plus anything that's on the other side of where that main trail is running through right in front of me. I'm hoping that I can just walk that transition that kind of runs right on the edge of all this swampier area, and then eventually cut in to where there's all that deadfall and just water and swamp grass. Ease my way into here without messing up too many trails. All right, so looking at the map, this trail here is where that all leads to, all that sign and everything, and where I said I should set up or set a camera at. This trail cuts through here. The rub that I found that was pretty significant is actually up there. This wraps around almost the backside of everything that we scouted right here. I'm gonna see where this goes compared to where that rub and everything was. So that's where I just crossed. Connects to a trail that's right here. I'm gonna keep following this. So I just walked behind those trees. There's that same trail I was on. There's another trail that kicks off this way. The trail I'm on turns and goes this way back to where I was, and this is everything that I scouted is up here. All that sign that I've been talking about that I found during the season is up there in that pinch. I walked straight down here. There's a good trail. There's the trail I'm on. There's a good trail that actually just connects right to where I'm going anyway, right here. My stand's gonna be back here. I want to be able to see the trail that I'm on right here that veers off this way. This is the one that I just walked down. I'll be able to see if anything crosses in this opening between these thickets. Anything crosses in this opening, I'll be able to see into those trees. And then right on the other side of that water is where all that sign was. Originally I said I was going to set up where all the sign was, but I want to be able to hit the trail that has the crossing here. There's the crossing that has a trail here, and then there's everything up there. I need to find a tree pretty much right here. I'm thinking this tree right here. And climb up the backside here, hang my stand so it faces this other one that goes up, kind of sit in this little pocket right here. And I should be able to shoot anything that walks down the edge of this water over here or crosses using these trails. If anything works its way through this thicket here or down the edge down here, if anything walks out here through this one, and then if anything works its way out of here on this main trail, it's going to be this tree for sure. It's got a weird lean to it. Oh boy, hold on. Yeah, I can make that work for sure. Alright, I got the tree marked. I'm going to turn my tracker on, and I'm going to try to figure out what my best access in and out is right now. If I don't like it, I'll just delete it and then come back either for my first hunt, try it that way, see if I like my access that way, but I'm going to give it a shot right now. Every part of me wants to just walk this edge up against the water because I know it leads right to the field and that's where more sign is. But I feel like if I can walk my way all the way through this open field, which is probably a couple hundred yards away from me, more than 100 yards away from me, and just cut right up the gut of all this deadfall right here, right to this tree, that will preserve everything coming from this way, coming from behind me, and then coming from down here. I maybe walked 20 yards. That's where that smaller historic was that I said connects with the trail that connects these two thickets, which means around that bend and that way was where that really big rub was. So I'll be able to see anything that uses this trail from my tree. This is not going to be bad to walk. We got a lot of water right now. Right now we have probably the most water we have had in a while. This is an easy walk. There's not really any water right here. I know when I get up farther there's probably going to be. But if I can just follow this opening, leave these thickets alone, leave those trails alone, that'll be good. So yeah, we were standing right here. That's where that historic is. We walked right across. That's the trail that we walked across. And we're maybe 50 yards from the tree. Okay, so I can either cut to my right. This is that island that there was really no sign on except for the big historic on the edge. And then that's where we just wrapped around and ended up down there. Now we're cutting right through the middle. So I could go through this big wide opening. There was, if you remember, there was sign down on this point right here. So I don't want to use that, even though I know that leads me right to the field I want to go to. I'm going to use this because it's just, you don't think anything mature is going to want to walk through this, so you should be safe putting your scent down in the middle of this. I'll just have to remember to stay as close to the middle as I can, but the water allows me to, so I can stay off of this edge over here, because we scouted up this edge. We scouted up that edge. Those were all the original beds we found. So I just need to stay in the middle. Definitely a morning stand, because there's no way I'm walking up this in the afternoon. Wasn't a long scout, but I combed pretty much through the whole area that I was interested in. Didn't find any incredible... Whew! Okay. Gotta rethink this. Oh, I'm not gonna leave much of a scent trail walking through water like that. Definitely wasn't a long scout, but I found myself a spot that I can see myself sitting pre-rut. Definitely during the rut. Giving her an all-day sit. Something's gonna work its way through there for sure. Just gotta hope it's a big one. Heading back to the truck now.